Good morning. Today we're at Refuge Cove State Recreation Site and we're going to do a couple paintings. Are you going to paint this morning, Tony?
I'm going to give it a shot, yeah.
This is Tony. I'm Danelle and I am going to do an acrylic gouache painting this morning. It is raining a little bit more than we expected, but we live in the Tongass National Rainforest, so we get almost 200 inches of rain a year here, so it's to be expected. And so anyway, we're going to unload the dogs. We have 4 dogs with us today and walk along this beautiful beach. Come along. If you like these kind of videos with a little art, a little hiking, consider subscribing and maybe even hit the like button. That would help build my community here. So welcome and let's get going. We have a brand new sign here that gives an overview of the park. The whole site, the whole area goes along the beach here. And I just wrote an article about a talk that I went to, a presentation about an invasive species that is causing all kinds of problems. Down in Washington State, they had to close down their whole Dungeness crab fishery due to the invasive European green crab. They have been creeping northward on the west coast, and now they are being found on here in southern southeast Alaska. There's not many in Ketchikan yet, but just south of us on Alaska's only native reserve on a net island in Metlakatla, they have been finding thousands of them. So they are just about to arrive, and we're finding more here. But I just wrote an article for our newspaper about that, and it was very interesting. Apparently, one of the worst things they do is they get into the eelgrass beds where native crabs live, like Dungeness crabs, that are important, of course, for the economy and to fishermen. They'll tear up the eelgrass and they will eat it. And they will also eat some of the native animals that are smaller than them. They'll even eat Dungeness crabs when they're smaller than them. These green crabs only get about 4 inches across, but they're pretty destructive. They're very fast. They can even catch juvenile salmon. So they are very unwelcome here in an area where marine fisheries are really, really important, crab fishing. So they are doing all kinds of research and trying to figure out how to deal with this. In Washington State, they have a pretty advanced system. They caught it pretty early down there, but not early enough. Here, they're very aware, and there are all kinds of organizations, nonprofits that are working on this. The University of Alaska Southeast is working on this, so hopefully they won't get too out of control or cause too many problems. They arrived on the East Coast, the southern East Coast, about 1917, I think it was. And nobody was aware of the dangers, and they crept up the East Coast. And they think they got first to San Francisco Bay in like 1980 through, they would pack lobsters from the East Coast in seaweed and ship them to California, and then they would take the lobsters and then throw the seaweed back in the ocean, because that seemed logical, because of course that's where seaweed goes. But they think that the larvae of these European green crabs were in the seaweed, and that's how they got established on the west coast. Their native area, of course, is Europe, the coast of Europe, all the way down to the very farthest northwestern coast of Africa. So there's your little European green crab information. You can look them up online, find out more about them and some of the problems they're causing, where they're invading areas. They're very fast, very aggressive, kind of cool little creatures, really, but definitely, like most invasive species, cause some pretty serious problems for the native wildlife. And there's not many predators here either. So we of course have minks and sea otters and martens, which are kind of large weaselly creatures. But the native animals have prey that they've learned to utilize for generations. So when an invasive species come in that's not really on the radar as an edible thing. So it's not raining as bad out here as I expected, but there is a shelter we can use to paint in if the weather gets too bad. The chihuahua is on point this morning. This spot is only about 4 minutes from my house, which I feel pretty lucky. Very typical here. Some people traveling in a little skiff. They might even live on that island over there. That's Gravina Island. And Gravina has our airport, which is down there. And then there's all these little islands. Someone lives on that island. Someone lives on this island. I do have a vlog of painting on this beach that I did quite a while ago. You can check it out up here at this card. And this is a really close beach, so yeah, I come here fairly often. I've also done a lot of sketches and a lot of paintings here that weren't on vlogs. I'll show you a few of them right here and here. And so it is a great learning exercise to paint the same scenes over and over in different lighting and in different times of day and with different mediums. So I never really get tired of painting these scenes over and over. I take a lot of pictures here, so I want to do some studio paintings. I have one right now from a photo I took out on a hike in my studio that I plan to work on later today. So here comes our morning flight into the airport over here. And we have Alaska Airlines here. That's it, besides all of our float plane companies. And we have a few, do we have a few non-float plane companies with smaller planes? I think we do, with wheel planes.
Yeah, we have Island Air.
That's right, we have Island Air. There's quite a few communities on all the islands around here in southern Southeast Alaska, so it's really important for them to get their groceries and supplies and everything they need, their mail, through the smaller planes. Let's get down the beach here. Not sure what scene we're gonna paint yet, but we have a lot of choices. I always like this here with this really pretty grass. The grass is starting to fade. It's about half as big as it was earlier this summer, and Edna just found a really fun stick. Somebody lost their paddle. It's not a kayak paddle, that's a canoe paddle. She thinks that would be really fun to fetch. Get your oar, Edna. Come on, let's go. All right, she's ready to go paddling. This is silly. Oh, it broke. How will you ever paddle your canoe now, Edna? A flock of seagulls. Do you remember that band? One of our dogs is named after a famous musician, though. This little guy, Geddy. He's named after Geddy Lee from Rush. We often see great blue herons here. They really love fishing off of those rocks down there. Now we're kind of headed back on the beach. We're looking for a good spot for art. The light is very muted today. It's starting to sprinkle just a little bit. Hopefully it won't rain too much that we'll have to go sit under the shelter. I learned my lesson about trying to paint in the rain, especially one day when I was doing acrylic gouache and the rain literally melted my whole painting down to the bottom by the time I got home. It was no big deal. I was able to repaint it. The collies like this beach here because it's good for playing ball. This island here, where these people live, it's got a big track hoe on it. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, But if you live on these remote islands and you need to do any construction work, you need to bring big equipment like that. You need to rent a barge or like a large landing craft to be able to get your construction equipment out there. So it just becomes a little more complicated. We have several houses on Gravina Island, and this is an island too, much bigger island. This is Revilla Gagedo Island. And Southeast Alaska is just a whole chain of islands here. We're kind of on the west coast of Canada here, actually. We are not way up north where everyone thinks of Alaska with the huge dramatic mountains. And I don't even think we have glaciers here. We're kind of famous here for not only our extreme rainfall, but our fjords. We have the misty fjords, very, very gorgeous area. That is like a federal park.
Yeah, it's a national monument.
National monument, yeah. So that is an incredibly beautiful area. So most of our water here is very deep, even though this is not very wide. The huge cruise ships easily come through here because the mountains are so steep, they just come straight down into the water. All right, let's find a spot to paint, because that's why you're here, is for the art, right? Have some sea lions out there. Okay, so today I got my gouache. Take off my gloves. So my little gouache setup, which I've shown before. A couple little brushes, a Rosemary and Company. I bought several of these this year after I saw them on a YouTube video. This came from an Artify set that I got for a gift, and I actually kind of like it for the gouache. It's fairly soft, which is nice. And here's my little gouache set I made out of a bead storage container that I got at Walmart. I have a square of paper towel with some parchment paper over the top for my palette. I just wet it down. It's been working really well. Then my gouache paints, I have yellow ochre, lemon yellow. I have a mix of like scarlet red and orange in this one. And I have titanium white. And this is a burnt sienna, sky blue, ultramarine blue, and I have some purple with some Prussian blue mixed in this one. I kind of mix a couple together in some of these just to help me get some variety without having to carry more containers. And I have my viewer with the grid to help me to compose my scene better. Because sometimes I just lose my composition. I get too interested in one tree or one island, and that gets huge, and then I lose my whole idea for my composition. My little water cup has a clip on it that I do not use, that I need to cut off. And my paper towels. One thing I've been carrying, I found when I do my gouache paints that I would just bring this much water, and then if I needed to brighten my sky or something, my water was too dirty. So now I bring this flask full of water. I suppose passersby think that I'm having myself a little party when they see this sitting there. But, and then finally, I have my little cardboard carrier I made with rubber bands and some duct tape. And I just have a multimedia paper. That's what I usually use for my gouache. And just tape it up. And then I can use my pencil case here to stick that on. It's a little too big of a piece of paper for that, but it works well enough for just a rough in plein air paint sketch. I've done this view quite a few times, but I think I'll do it again. Maybe not with the dogs. They're waiting for me to throw the ball. So I'll probably do those islands. Probably zoom in a little more. This camera can't zoom in terribly well, so I'll probably do a little bit closer up view of that. I've done this quite a few times. So when you're on the beach, you have a lot of sand to deal with. My water already has sand in the bottom, but that's all part of the experience, right? Do have some extra paint in here. I bring extra titanium white and extra Prussian blue. So being that this is an opaque medium, I'm going to get my darks in there first. So let's start with a little Prussian blue, burnt sienna, a little bit of yellow ochre. I'll put these islands at the 1/3 line here. Just going to wing it a little bit today, not do a ton of planning. Okay, we gambled with the rain. It's starting to rain a little harder, so I had to finish this in about 15 minutes. The composition isn't exactly accurate to the scene. I have the beach coming out farther than it really is. I don't know if I can compare here. And I could work on this more at home if I want to, but this is a great exercise in just capturing what you can as soon as possible, get those values in, get at least an approximation of the colors and the warms and the cools. And Tony's over here trying to get his watercolor finished. Let's see what he is doing. Actually, I'm going to put my painting inside the carrier quickly before the rain totally melts it. Just fold it up. I have these rubber bands. This is a very homemade system. So it just kind of folds in like that and then just kind of protects the wet paint from touching the top. So I can carry it home without too much destruction. And then when I get home, I'll put on my reading glasses. I'll see how I did and maybe just kind of touch it up a little bit. I'll probably leave the composition as inaccurate as it is. I have the beach coming in quite a bit farther to the middle, but that's fine. Get some creative license there, trying to go really fast. So let's go see what Tony did with his watercolor painting. Oh, you got a lot done really quickly. That's looking good. It's looking good. I like your sky there.
See how the rain made it a little bit.
It's tough when I've done this many times too. I draw with the waterproof pen, and one of the disadvantages of that, even though I love doing it, is it's impossible to get that sense of the mist hanging in the hills like you can see there. But the drawing looks really good. Tony has a good skill for drawing. He's using this little watercolor set. All right, now it's time for the dogs to play ball. As you can see, they think this is a very important job. There's Henry, he's always under my chair. We call this docking. He likes to sit here and then he freezes, waiting for the ball to be thrown. Being border collies, they when they get excited, they tend to hunker down and freeze. So anyway, well, of course, now that I put my painting away, the rain pretty much stopped. But I'm gonna have my tea, throw the ball for the dogs a little bit, and then we'll head home. I hear a raven up here. We also have an eagle's nest up here too, a bald eagle. But they're pretty quiet at this time of year. They're worn out from raising their big, goofy babies. So anyway, thanks for joining us today for this little outing. This is a very typical Southeast Alaska day. It's very quiet, misty, a little bit of rain. No cruise ships showing up this morning. This is the very end of our cruise ship season. I think the last cruise ship comes on October 21st, I think is what I heard. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Stay creative and have fun.